Welcome back to United USA. Well, what we got going on is a volatile situation that is basically the sparks in the match before the forest fire. This situation could get really out of control. Let's go ahead and talk about it. What up, YouTube? What's going down? What's up? Chilling. Yeah. Back again in the Ukraine. What they're not telling you, okay? Number one is that Vladimir Putin does not want Ukraine to become part of NATO. That's a big part of what's going on right now. Now, you're not going to hear that on mainstream media because they're not going to tell you the truth, because they want to keep you in the lies, deception, and just the simplicity of, hey, we're at war and bad people are going to do bad things and take over a country. Now, I'm opposed to the war in Ukraine. I don't agree with what's happening. I think it's wrong that, one country is invading another sovereign state. Obviously, it's wrong. But to understand the geopolitics of this, the political motivation is that Russia simply does not want the Ukraine to be a part of NATO, right? It would be, to them, it's like, the U.S. has already got bases everywhere. Think of, for all my American subscribers, think of it like this. Think about if China had a base right over the Tucson border, or Yuma, Arizona, right? Or just outside of San Diego in Tijuana, Mexico, right? Think about if Russia had a military base just over the Canadian border by the Great Lakes, or north of New York on the East Coast, or the Dakotas in the Midwest and the North Midwest. That's what it is to them. They don't want a United States base. They don't want a NATO base so close to their country. And for good reason. It makes them nervous. Now, I'm not sympathizing with them. I'm just saying I understand. I understand why they don't want that. Do I agree with the war? No, of course not. This is a long conversation, but the long story short of it in this video in particular, what I'm saying is there are many motivations that we're not being told of why this war is being perpetuated by Russia. Now, the other part of that, the flip side of the coin, would be, why is America getting involved? Oh, well, America, we're the big brother, we're the good guy of the world, we're the police of the world, and we got to look out for other sovereign nations that are being invaded. Let me tell you what, there's a lot of sovereign nations that have been invaded through time. We can't come to everyone's aid. To think that the United States can be the police of the world is not realistic, but that is the illusion and the figment that's been portrayed for the longest time, ever since I was a kid. Still going on now to this day. Look at what happened in Vietnam. Now, Vietnam, some would say, well, that's different. Well, is it different? You had one country that was overtaking another country, and what did our government say back then? They said, well, we're doing this to stop the communists. Right? It's always about America stopping the communists, stopping the terrorists, stopping the bad guys, right? But one person's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, okay? And so on. I think most people might look at America as being a force for good, and sometimes we are, and other times we're not. Do I think that we should be involved in this circumstance regarding Ukraine? In my own personal opinion, no. I don't think we should be involved. I think it's none of our business, and I think we should stay out of it. But it doesn't matter what I think, because that's not going to happen. But I can still state my opinion and still say what's happening is ridiculous on both sides. But to see the United States getting involved in another war, look at what happened in Afghanistan, complete failure, $1 trillion spent in 20 years, and for what? For nothing. Did we make any difference? Yeah, we made a difference. We made it worse over there. We made Iraq worse. We made Afghanistan worse. We made that region worse. Now, places like Iraq is a vacuum, a training ground for terrorists in the last 2 decades. Once they took Saddam out of power, forget it. Saddam Hussein, he was a horrific dictator, and he did a lot of bad things. He was, to say the least, a very evil man. But at the same time, he kept his people in check. Do I agree with the things he did? Of course not. But what I'm saying is, are we better off or worse off now that those things transpired and happened? Will we be, and I ask the question and beg the question now, are we better off staying out of this fight with the Ukraine and Russia? Or is it better for us to get involved? Everyone's going to have a difference of opinion and different reasons why they think, yes, we should be involved or no, we shouldn't. But in my personal opinion, I think we should stay the hell out of it. These psychopaths that are in power, not just in our country, but others, these governments are going to get us into World War III. Okay, it's like they're hell-bent on getting us into a war. It's like every decade we've got to start. We just got out of Afghanistan a year ago. Now we're about to go to war with Russia. Oh, by the way, who is Russia allied with? Let me think. Russia and China are allied together as partners. So essentially, if the United States looks to NATO to go to war in Ukraine with Russia, what would stop Russia from calling on China and saying, hey, big brother, we need you. The United States is trying to flex on us. We need you to come to our aid. Great. Now we're in a war with Russia and China, trying to defend Ukraine. And also think about all the other countries that are allied with Russia and China. Let me just name two as an example. Syria and Iran. Yeah, that's right. Syria and Iran is allied with Russia. And now we got a situation that's happening right now that potentially could lead to something much, much bigger and worse that could have endless ramifications and consequences for people that are thousands of miles away, specifically us here in the United States. And all that they can talk about is, well, expect gas prices to go up, but we're going to put economic sanctions on Russia. We're going to spank their little bottom, and we're going to put them in the corner and put them on a timeout. What's happening right now is so much bigger on so many other levels than most people are really realizing. And Russia's motive is to take over Ukraine before they become allied with the United States and NATO. And that's really what it's all about. And two things that I would say are extremely important to keep in context is, do we really want to be in the middle of a confrontation with Russia, especially after everything that has transpired over the years already with economic sanctions? Russia's not exactly happy with us, and I think it gets to a point where maybe they feel like they have nothing to lose at some point. That makes Russia a very dangerous country as far as a threat to the United States. And the fact that, the second thing I want you to think about is the fact that Russia is allied with China. And again, Russia is allied with Syria and Iran, just to name a couple. I mean, does the United States really want to get into a war with China and Russia? Just China alone. Most people don't know this, but China's soldiers is over 200 million foot soldiers. That's more than 50% of the United States population. I think the United States population right now is 320 million, 330 million, not in counting illegals. Do we really want to get into a battle with Russia and China? Regardless of what's happening and regardless of the moves Russia's making, for example, with Ukraine. Those are the questions I propose. Let me know what y'all think. Hit me up in the comments. Check y'all in the next video.